Hey guys, I wanted to make a video about this like quote-unquote new Arcane Mage opener that I've been asked about, and I think it's finally time to make that video now I'm a little bit more free, but here it is. So the new opener is not something you always do. You only want to do it with double lust, and you always have to make sure that you're not messing up your timings if you want to do it. It's not a major gain on DPS. I want to say it's like 3 to 5% gain. I don't think it's even that much, but it's good to do when it doesn't mess up your timers. So what is this new opener? The new opener is one where you evocate before the pull, as normal, and then you're going to do an Arcane Blast into an orb. So evocation is 1 charge, Arcane Blast is 2, orb is 3. If orb hits the target, it's 4. Great. As soon as after you cast your Arcane Orb, you want to put the Nether Tempest, and then you Rune of Power. And now we enter what we call a pre-burst phase. What this pre-burst is all about is this. We're going to be spamming Arcane Blasts, and if we get 2 clear castings, you press Arcane Missiles once, and you're going to keep doing this until one of 2 conditions are met. Either Rune of Power has 4 GCDs left, or your mana is like you hit a level of mana where you need to start your Radiant Spark, or you'll go during your Radiant Spark. Does that make sense? So for example, in my eyes it was like, I think for me it's like 35 to 40%. I think the APL says 200k mana or 250k mana. I think that's more to do with like the default profiles and the low gear profiles that they're using to check on are a little bit weird with their mana bars. But I don't see a reason why you would not just keep going until Rune is like 4 GCDs left, or you don't have enough mana for your Radiant Spark window. So you keep doing this, and then eventually you get to that point where Rune is like expiring. So for example, in this log, 7 seconds after you runed, that's when you drop your Radiant Spark. And if you see, you cast Rune here at about 4 seconds, and your new Rune is dropping about 15. So maybe 1 or 2 seconds of Rune are wasted. Probably could have fit in 1 or 2 more Arcane Blasts, unless mana was tight. And after that, you just press your Radiant Spark, and then you do your rotation as normal. This is not my log, I will admit, because I haven't been playing with this new opener much, because I've been on Razageth, and I do not recommend using it on Razageth. But it's a good visual representation of it. So you might ask yourself, why do we do this opener? What is the point here? There's a few things compounded that makes it really strong. If you think about it, the very biggest important thing in my eyes is how it deals with our mana bar, how it affects our mana usage throughout a fight. Now, let's consider how we evocate and what our real mana bar is. What I say is we have something called a working mana bar, and our working mana bar is essentially the mana bar from when you press Surge until your next evocate, right? Because that's the mana bar you're really dealing with. Any mana before the Surge is just going to get destroyed from Surge, and any mana after evocate obviously is just starting new. So your real mana bar that you're going to be dealing with for most of your fight duration is the one between Surge until your next evocate. If we don't do this new opener, then what it means is that if we evocate at 0 seconds and we press Surge at, let's say, 9 seconds, right, roughly, then our Surge, or our evocate, sorry, will come up 1 minute and 20 seconds after our Surge. If you count shifting power, 1 minute and 10 seconds, but we don't really need to worry about that. Let's just say 1 minute and 20 seconds. So you have to deal with a mana bar for 1 minute and 20 seconds of the fight. As you've already noticed with Double Lust, our mana bar is really rough at the very start of the fight. So instead, if we spend about 10 seconds before we press Surge, then that means our evocate will actually be 10 seconds earlier relative to our Surge. Because we're surging later, so the time between our Surge until our evocate is 10 seconds less. Which means instead of 1 minute and 20 seconds that we need to deal with our mana bar until we evocate, it's only 1 minute and 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds are integral because those 10 seconds could potentially mean 7 Arcane Blasts? Imagine having 7 extra Arcane Blasts worth of mana. That's insane, right? That's the main advantage in my opinion. The other advantages could be, for example, that you have a good likelihood of proccing Impetus before your burst, which is 10% extra mana. You stack up your 4-piece before your first big burst. And also, if your second clear casting, for example, happens to be before your Surge, or before your Radiant Spark, sorry, then you actually get Nether Precision going into your Spark phase, which is great, right? To be clear, this is something you can do with both Harmony and with Gem build. It both works with both. But yeah, those are the advantages. The only disadvantage is that you have less mana when you press Surge. Why do we not care about this? The reason is that Arcane Surge's damage is half, like, guaranteed. So the first 50% is guaranteed. The second 50% is based off your mana bar. So if you have half mana, Surge does 75% damage, right? The first half is guaranteed, and the second half, instead of getting full 50, you only get 25, so 50 plus 25, 75. But the thing is, Surge's damage is not that much in one hit, right? Like, it's not, it hits like a little more than an Arcane Blast. So utilizing, like, burning our entire mana bar and worrying about our entire mana bar just to buff one ability that barely does, like, it's gonna do us like an extra 50k damage if we have full mana compared to have no mana? Like, we don't care about that. Instead, we can use that mana to spam ABs during our first rune. To be clear, the recommendation is, once again, you only do this when it doesn't mess with your timers, right? Like on Razagath Mythic, you don't do this because you have to just go. You have to just send your burst straight away. But like if you're looking at like Taros or something, if delaying your burst by 10 seconds does not affect your bursts, like your future timings negatively in any way, then you do gain DPS doing this, right? So always think about the time. It's not something you do automatically, but if you don't have a plan, you don't have timers to look at, you're just going to send on cooldown for the entire fight, this is worth doing, right? I hope that clears things up, and I hope that answers some questions people had. If something doesn't make sense or could use a better explanation, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.